Hey folks, Tate here with Do All Outdoors. Today I've got the Flyway 90 with me. We're going to assemble this. It's a pretty quick one to throw together. But what we're going to do first, I find it easiest to start with the trap upside down. So take the trap, bring it upside down. We're going to put the base on it. Now on the base you'll see that one of these holes on each side has a sliding range. You want to make sure that those pieces, along with this little indent here, are facing toward the power switch of the trap. That way we will have the ability to adjust up and down for angle. So what I've got here is the large bolts with the 19mm head on them, a steel and a rubber washer. What we're going to do is take them and thread them through the base into the head of the trap. I'll first just start by tightening them by hand, and then I'll finish them up with the tool here to get them nice and snug to keep the trap from sliding up and down. I can get it to cooperate with me. There we go. And again, I've got a 19mm socket here. Okay, now we're going to keep the trap upside down here. It's much easier to put the legs on this way. So each of these legs actually just slides in, and then we've got 4 bolts here. And again, I will just start them by hand, and these are 14mm bolts. So when it comes time to tighten those down, get a 14mm socket or a wrench to get that done. All right, now we've got that step finished. I'm going to go ahead, take the trap, flip it right side up. And what you'll notice when you get this is that these 2 safety ring arms, there are 2 nuts on this bolt on the front, and these come between the 2 nuts. What we've got to do is take that whole bolt off and get these beneath both nuts. So we will do that here, and that is in 11mm head on that bolt. So just be careful of this spring here. She can pop loose when you're doing this. Like that. And then what you'll need to do is get this lower nut off of there, which I believe is a 10mm nut on the bottom. Usually it can be done by hand, but sometimes it gets a little tight on that bolt. Okay, so we'll take that little nut off. Both safety ring arms come off, and that nut goes back on. All right, and then what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that these hooks are still open on the top when we put this back together. But now that we've got both nuts kind of close to each other on this bolt, we're going to take these 2 safety ring rods, get them back onto that bolt, make sure I got them on the right way. And I'm just going to start threading it a little bit here so I can get that spring back on before I tighten everything. There we go. All right. So we want to get it to about the point where these 2 bolts are kind of flush with each other, so that spring's not at too much of a downward angle towards the front. But at that point, if you want to, you can tighten this lower nut down a little bit to get these tightened on there. But once you get the safety ring on, they kind of hold themselves in place there. From here, before I put that safety ring on, I'm actually going to assemble the stacker poles on top just so that I can reach everything a little better. So for the 90, we've got 2 sets of stacker poles, and each set has 2 wider and 2 smaller diameter. And on the thrower, it does say small poles up front, but just want to reiterate that the smaller diameter poles do have to be at the front, otherwise you'll have a lot of clay feeding issues. That goes for both the bottom set, and actually the top set is all the wider style, so those ones aren't as important as to what goes where, but make sure the small poles are towards the front on the lower section here. All right, so at this point I've got the lower set of stacker poles on here. You'll have 2 horseshoes with the Flyway 90, one for between the sections, one for on top of the poles. What you're going to want to do is make sure it's open towards the back or the power towards the power switch of the trap, and then just thread the top poles through the holes onto the smaller diameter poles. Just get them snug on there. All right, from that point we'll go ahead and we're going to take our 4 little bolts that go on top of these horseshoes. They have a 10mm head on them, and we'll just thread those into the top set of poles here. And you can always take a tool to tighten these if you want them real snug, but I usually find that doing it by hand is just fine. And then it's also easier to take them off if you ever need to take these stacker poles off, because you do need to unthread each set to get them off of the 90 here. All right, so we got the stacker poles, horseshoes on there. Already have the safety ring arms up. So what I'm gonna do now is take the safety ring, get it installed on here, and then we'll get it put secured on the rear of the trap there as well. So you can do this a couple different ways. I guess the easiest way is probably just to slide it through. You can snap the ring into there as well, but it can give you quite a bit of resistance if you're doing it that way. So we'll just slide through both of these. All right, and then towards the rear of the trap here, you've got a nut and a bolt that are kind of securing the outside of the tube there. But at this point, we are going to slide the ring through and then tighten them up a little bit. And you can always come back and do this with a tool as well to get it even more snug. But if you're going to be moving it, I would recommend just doing it this way. That way the safety ring can come on and off with ease. So at this point, we've got that whole safety ring arm installed on there. And there we go. Make sure we get it in the right position. All we have to do now is install our mainspring and spade bolt. So to do this, we're going to take our throwing arm, point it outwards at the 12 o'clock position, and then down underneath the trap here, you've got a little eyelet that you can hook the mainspring onto. I don't know if you can see it in the camera there or not, but there's only one possible spot you could hook that to, so there's no way to confuse it. And then we'll take the outer nut off of that spade bolt, hook the spade bolt onto the mainspring. And then there's a hole at the rear of the trap here that the spade bolt can go through. And from there, we can go ahead and tighten this thing up. And for the spade bolt, what we like to see is, you'll feel the tension on the spring as well, but typically it's about 3 to 4 threads exposed at the rear. Because if you're feeling a little tension here, that means when the arm comes and cocks all the way around, it's going to have a lot of tension on that spring. So we look for 3 to 4 threads exposed at the rear here. Okay, so your unit may or may not come with a safety pin, which would go into this hole here. And I'll just kind of give you an example of what that would do. But I'm taking the mainspring off because I don't actually want the trap to go off. And anytime you're making adjustments to the thrower, We would also recommend you remove the mainspring. So always get it out to that 12 o'clock position before you do so, just to take the danger out of the machine. So what that safety pin does, if your unit came with one, is it would slide through this hole here and it stops the arm from going any further. So it is a safety measure. However, if you forget to take it out and you try to release the trap, you're gonna blow a fuse on your thrower and probably be out done shooting for the day. So just always remember when you're ready to shoot, if your thrower comes with a safety pin, be sure to remove that. The only other thing we need to go over with the Flyway 90 here is this one has a plunger that can be reversible for singles or doubles. So all you'll have to do is at the rear of the plunger assembly here, you'll see a screw with a Phillips head on it. All you have to do is remove that screw, take this plastic piece, flip it over, and then put that screw back in. So that's it to switch it from singles to doubles and back and forth. At this point, you're ready to go to the field with your Flyway 90.